like to begin with a word of prayer, and then if you would remain standing, join us in the pledge to the flag. I'm going to call on the sheriff to open the meeting with prayer, please.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us today where we can bring us here today so we can discuss the needs of our community, God. And I want to tell you thank you for all that are here to show concern. Ask that you please bless this meeting and bless the decisions that are being made, God. And God, be with each and every one of us as we go through our daily routine, God, and help us to see the miracles that you perform, God, and not only to see them, but to act upon them. I ask these things in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Join us in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We certainly appreciate all of you being here today. Appreciate your interest in the business of our county and the commission. We have no public hearings scheduled today, but we do have some scheduled public comment from citizens, and so we'll start with that. Toby, you are first on the list, and we'll ask you just to come to the podium here. It's on video, and that's within the line of the video, so everyone here or those watching can hear. You have about 3 minutes to address the group, so glad to have you with us.
Well, I'm Toby Riggs. I live out in Sugar Hill Estates on Sugar Road. And back a couple of weeks ago or a little longer, the county decided for some reason to come out and just start digging up the ditches. Now, last meeting, Mr. White asked you about if that was regular maintenance. No, sir. I've been there 35 years, and the county has never been out there and dug up the ditches. We also have another resident here. Yeah, he's passing the stuff out. He's been there 20 years, and his ditch has never been touched. And what it amounts to is that, you know, it's not just an eyesore for the front yards. You know, I've got a deep ditch with poured concrete in it. It doesn't affect me personally, but it does affect the neighborhood as a whole. And basically what we out there are asking was that we've been shown enough respect that before you tear up our front, to at least come sit down with us and let's discuss it and decide whether or not it was needed. Because I can assure you, nothing that was done was necessary, and nothing that was done was needed. You look, if you start at the end of Sugar Road where County Road 19 comes in, you start down there, you got a ditch which is all covered with nice and grass, and you can ride in there with a mower and cut it. It's nice, it was left alone. The other side of the driveway, somebody scraped through there for no reason. I mean, if the water was adequate, if the ditch was adequate on this side for the water, then it was adequate on this side. Then come down the next ditch and let it alone. Then come down the next one and dig it out. So there was no rhyme or reason for what was done. And, you know, I'm sure there are plenty of excuses that would be made. And people can say, well, this is what all the books on engineering books say, whatever. You know, I'm a retired public servant. And one thing I've never forgot while I was there was that I was a public servant. And I always instructed my people that if you're going to do anything that adversely affected someone, you get them in here, sit down with them, look them in the eye, and let them know what's going on. Don't disrespect the people. And that's what we're asking out there. What has been done, our formal request is that it be undone. You put it back the way it was, because it wasn't necessary. Now, I will comment, if you look at Highway 29 coming down South 29, then you got Sugar Road which parallels it, and there's 2 lots in between the two. You got the lot there where Pecan Luke comes in. Harold Burnham lives right next door to me. Some of you may know him. Then there's my house. Then the next lot is a wooded lot. There's 2 wooded lots right there. Now there's a drainage right-of-way coming off of 29 down to Sugar Road. That wasn't touched. But that is the biggest problem out there. Every time it rains, if there's a big rainstorm, that fills up, it overflows through that wooded section, it washes across my yard. I get all kinds of rubbish from that section. Now, about 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, my wife talked with a Mr. Carter that worked for the county about the problem, and he said that it would be addressed. When nothing was done, I asked him about it, and he called my wife a liar, said he never told her. But that one problem should have been addressed, and that one you could dig out and nobody would complain about. But from what I've seen of it, it hadn't been touched in years. But my ditch, it's got that poured concrete. When it rains, any rubbish from up above washes down and fills up right there in my driveway. And for years, I've gone out there and I've cleaned out all the brush and stuff that washes down. I've quit doing it. And I've recently got some health problems where I can't do it anyway. Can't even maintain my yard. But, we just ask that if you're gonna do something, come talk with us. See whether or not it's necessary. And if nothing else, we'll understand what's going on and why. But what was done looks like a child got out there and did it. So Mr. Harkins, it was his ditch was the worst. If you give him a moment to speak, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Harkin?
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for letting us speak. My name is Michael Harkins, live out in Sugar Hills. The pictures that I've passed out, it's just a few that we have. As Toby had said, that before the ditches, they were not a problem. They did not hold water. They flowed very well, and you could cut them and maintain them. And I've maintained my ditch for 20 years. Now I can't. I can't even get close to it without the side collapsing down. You'll also notice that before the concrete ditches of my neighbor, it wasn't full of sand. Now it is, because all the topsoil has been removed, and nothing but the sand that was underneath it has now washed down into his ditch, and he's been spending almost a week digging out his ditch, because his ditch is concreted. What Toby had said, what we were asking is, we know that there's more and more neighborhoods, that was alluded to the last meeting, and that the neighbors be notified as to what the county's intentions are. And we could get together and actually talk about it and discuss it and see what is really needed instead of what happened. This was a shock to all of us, and you can see that, the ditches, he said like a child did it. Somebody that these were not graded, they weren't, there was no grade put to it, there was no survey to ensure a proper drainage grade. They just showed up, and what they did is just really shocking. And some of it is so close to the paved road that it's washing away at the paved road, and that next thing you know, it's the road is going to start eroding away. What we'd like to know is, do you have an action plan to fix this, and what timeline do you have?
Okay.
I spoke actually with Lynn, last Thursday, Lynn, because we had addressed it and talked with him, and Lynn assured that they're going to come back down. And I'll ask Lynn to elaborate when or anything like that, but he does have it in his sights
Okay.
to come back and fix the problem. That was, I think, last Thursday was when I spoke with Lynn about it. The timeline, a lot of it would be depending on, I would say on the weather, some of it, but Lynn can
The
give
heat
you.
of the summer, ground temp needs to be 60 degrees, which is getting there. We got a good cool snap here no more than probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. And when I go to, we're gonna bring topsoil back in and get that addressed. We're all gonna be happy with it. I can assure we're gonna make everybody happy when we get through with it.
Okay, well, we appreciate it. And maybe in the future, I don't know, I know that more and more neighborhoods are coming in, that if you have a procedure in the office, that maybe it needs to be updated, to talk to the people, the community, and let them know what's going on, and if it needs to be done, yes, it needs to be done. But it's almost like a shock and awe thing to us.
Yeah.
And so we'd appreciate a little bit better communication.
Okay, Mr. Harkins, we appreciate y'all coming. We certainly understand your concern and interest, and the commission is committed with the engineer's office to address it so
We-
that, so
we
there's some
appreciate it. Thank you very
satisfaction at the
much.
end. Yes, sir. Thank y'all. We also had scheduled today, Teresa Cotton, and I don't think Ms. Cotton is with us. I think her concern probably was addressed since she signed up, so hopefully she's content. If she wants to, she can certainly get back on the agenda for a later meeting. We have no awards and presentations, but we do have some other elected officials with us, unelected official with us. Sheriff, you have something now, or
I'll cover it.
save yours for later? All right. Appreciate you being here. I know the probate judge is typically with us, and I think she had a training going on or something, so, and I'm not sure about Chuck. Did you hear from him? Mr. Patterson normally is with us. We appreciate their regular and faithful attendance. We had no items in the consent agenda, nothing to act on under old business that's on the agenda. I do have two things that aren't itemized on here, Commissioners, I'd like to add for this, at least consideration. But if it's okay, I'll just add them at the end of the listed business. One of them probably could come under old business. But moving to new business, we have a request to consider funding for inmate feed bill. We'll ask Karen to give us some background on that.
Okay, we were presented with a statement, I guess, from the inmate food service provider. The sheriff has a shortage in his account, I believe, and due to the rising cost of the food, and was asking for us to help, based on the new code section, to help cover that cost.
What does the new code section say?
Well, I don't have it in front of me,
But just
so I'm sure
generally,
the sheriff can tell us
The
a little
gist
bit about
of it
it.
is that, you know, for years, food bill was under the private control of the sheriff across the state of Alabama. And 3 or 4 years ago, there was a lot of concern raised about that, and so legislation was passed to shift the burden of feeding inmates to the general fund of the commission. I believe that's correct. And so funds are received either from the state Department of Prisons or from local entities that house their inmates at the jail. Those funds come into an account, and then they're used to purchase food and keep the prisoners fed. But with inflation being like it's been the last few months, then there's been a shortfall of that money coming in. It hadn't covered the most immediate, the most recent needs for food. So sheriff shifted some funds from a discretionary fund to account to cover an overage in the cost, and he's just asking for those funds to be reimbursed. And it is a general fund expense. I think it's an appropriate bill. I think maybe the procedures might need to be looked at, just like everything else that comes in through our accounts, the general fund and other things under the commission. We have a procedure for approval through purchase orders and stuff. This was handled differently. And I think ordinarily it's handled differently, but this one issue where it overran the cost, I think we might have needed to be a little more conscientious about it. But that being said, I do think that there's a need to cover that cost, and certainly all of us know the cost of food and what it's doing to our families. It's no different feeding the 200 folks at the jail. But one positive note related to the jail, State of Alabama Department of Corrections has taken 50 or 60 inmates over the recent weeks, so that our student count, our population inmate count has decreased from near 250 to what, 185 or something like that.
We're right around 200 or less.
Okay, so it's been a tremendous improvement. We appreciate the Department of Corrections making those changes in recent months.
Is that it? Is there any more going out?
That probably is most of them. There are always 2 or 3 or 5.
There'll always be some going out. They've just picked it up.
But none that's already slated to go or waiting.
We just had a prisoner run last week, so.
But they have, it's kind of at the routine, the normal standard now, the normal numbers, and they should rotate out unless they change policy again. So, Commissioners, we need approval to reimburse this cost, this food cost, what is the amount, Karen?
Well, the first, well, it's two invoices. One was $29,8408 and the other's $30,480.34 for a total of $6,464.42.
Is the appropriate thing for us to just reimburse that exact amount or move additional funds there?
What caused it to come short like that? Is it the number of inmates or?
Well, I suspect that's part of it, because if you look at the reimbursement per day from the state, that hadn't gone up, has it? It's the same old $1.60 or $1.80 or whatever, that's the old days. What is it now?
It's more than that, it's around $2.
Okay, but it hasn't gone up in all these, last 24 months, so it's just the cost of food has gone up significantly, and it just got ahead of it.
Of course, on pages, 8 through 10, I believe in your packet, 7 through 10, I'm sorry, is their, profit and loss, and so you can see how much they were had a shortage on that, so it wasn't the full amount of the shortage, I don't believe, based on these documents. So it's according if y'all want to pay those complete bills, I guess, or just the shortage amount. Sheriff, do you know?
I just asked for the shortage amount.
How much is that?
I believe it's
Sixty.
what the deal.
6,400.
Okay.
But will this be corrected now once we get this? Have we got it where it will stay in line, or how do we need to address this to you? What do you think we need to do?
There is a fund that is put in place to be able to reimburse for these shortages. You have to apply for it, but I'll get y'all the information. We can apply for these shortages and get our money back, and of course it'd go to you guys. But as far as right now, what we've been doing is we've been able to cover these shortages by what we've had put in our food account, and it just worked its way down. We haven't changed what we're feeding. I mean, we have to provide them with certain meals, and although they're wholesome and adequate, food costs have just gone up, and the price of reimbursement has not. So this could be an ongoing issue, but we're doing the best we can to keep it down as low as we can.
That's what I'm looking at.
Mhm.
I understand we got a shortfall here that's just started, from this.
Right.
All these costs, and which would, if we have to keep reimbursing that, we may have to keep doing that, but if there's some other way we can correct it on both sides where it will work for all of us better, make this thing a little more simple, that's what we need to do.
Well, I think in the future, we would probably need to budget this type of money for the jail account, just in the event that something like this happens. Maybe it's some type of fund that would stay and would roll over on itself. We've been, this has been going on since I took office, actually before I took office, so we've been very good about, this is the first bill y'all got, so we've been very good about being able to get the money we need just out of that account, but it just wasn't enough this time.
I'm assuming we're still buying in bulk.
Yes, we certainly do. We buy in bulk as much as we possibly can. It's cheaper that way.
So on average here, and let's say we remain at 185 to 187. So on an average per month, what does it cost to feed those inmates during that time, if we remain at that number?
Well, the number of inmates and how much it costs, it depends on how many inmates, but basically you're still consuming the same amount of food per inmate. Whether there's 100 inmates in there or 200 inmates in there, the reimbursement is going to be according to what inmates are in there. We're allotted around $2 a day to feed the inmates, and it probably costs us a little bit more than $2 to feed them. And when you have a lot of them coming in, a lot of them going out, I mean, it just adds up. And then this time it caught up with us. And so it just depends on how many inmates you have in there. So if you had 150 inmates in there, it's you know, $300 would be our reimbursement on just food, and it costs a little more than that to feed them. So, but we've been fortunate that our municipalities, they pay a different rate, and that rate has been covering our shortcomings. It just, this time it wouldn't do it.
Did you say the state has already made provisions to cover?
Right, there are
future-
provisions where you can apply for your shortcoming, and they will be reimbursed.
Just apply and reimburse, it's not like you gotta apply for a grant.
No, you apply and it can be reimbursed to the account.
You've already done that, or is that?
No, I have not done it, but we will, so.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to reimburse these funds to the food account?
I'll make the motion.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second? Comments, questions? Anything to clarify? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll cut a check, all right? While you're standing with us, how about sharing on, about the donated vehicle, and then the
Yes.
commissioners need to consider, acceptance or approval of that donation.
Power South is wanting to donate us a 2015 Tahoe. We intend to use it for our process serving papers program at the cost of $10, which would be paid out of the discretionary funds. I just need approval to accept this. I didn't want to put my cart before the horse.
Is it replacing something you already have? You're gonna remove something from?
It's not replacing anything. It's actually adding to a need that we have now.
Okay.
We have some process servers that we don't have vehicles for. They've just kind of been using whatever we
I
could.
was gonna ask you, do you ever get your process servers hired?
Yes, they're just kind of using whatever we can round up, and this would be a dedicated vehicle.
What year is it?
2015.
Thank you
Not
for,
bad for
thank you for
$10.
knowing that off the top of your head.
Not bad for $10.
No, sir.
All right.
Might need two of them, if they got 'em.
So we need a motion to accept this vehicle as requested.
I'll make a motion, we accept it.
All right,
I said.
second, motion and second, questions? Any additional comments?
We'll send a thank you letter to Power South.
Whatever the cost is to equip it, we'll absorb it with the discretionary fund.
All right, you've heard the motion, second the discussion. If there's nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, carried. And Sheriff, you may not have to speak on this, but I know there was some out-of-state travel. Karen, tell us about that, and then we'll see if we have questions for you.
We have 2 correction officers that were signed up to attend a free class. I believe it's jail tracker training, which is their program that they use there. And it was just travel for the 25th and 26th, which means they're there now, but they did not realize that they had to have the prior approval to go out of state. That the only cost we're incurring is hotel and meals,
Where did they go?
and of course the fuel that they were taking, Nashville.
Nashville. All right. It's hard to turn down free cars. It's hard to turn down free training, and we certainly need more and more training, so.
I will say this, I did see some of the inmates out the other day, you know, I just had to be kind of behind them somewhere. One of the guys that was with them said, or they seen it, said, man, what's that on your wrist? And they said, that's our identification, but they know where we're at. I will say, and I guess it's a jail tracking system, I will say that, but they're aware they have it on. And
It really helps out with movement within the jail, issuing medications, like that. It's been a really good program.
Good. So, this is retroactive approval for out-of-state travel. As you know, the commission brings all out-of-state travel, whether it's commission, sheriff, or any employee to the table for approval, to be transparent with those expenses. Is there a motion to approve this travel?
Motion to approve.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
There a motion and a second. If no other questions, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. And then Karen, the next item is the award bids for jail block doors. Tell us about that.
It's a interesting bid. We have the need to replace the jail cell block doors. We had received bids in on the 21st. We had received 3 bids back. It was Willow, Cornerstone, and U.S. Security Systems. The bid bond was not received on Cornerstone until 40 minutes after the deadline, so we had to reject that one since they did not have proper paperwork. So the 2 to be considered is Willow Products at $95,207 and U.S. Security Systems at $97,030.
The big
Cornerstone.
There's a tremendous amount
It was-
less, but they didn't get
But the bid bond was not received. It was $64,915.89, but the UPS delivered the packet with the bid bond at 10:40, so it was past the deadline.
Can that be considered an incidental shortcoming so that you can award? I mean, the bid law had, I don't know. The
I think
bid
we've
law,
taken care of that part of it, so, yeah.
it's not?
You wanna give a little bit of a rundown with, you don't remember?
Basically, the Public Works bid, has provisions in it, and you have to meet all your different provisions in that
Yeah.
Public Works law in order to be considered.
And this was an exemption.
Right. No, the advertising was an exemption, but the bid bond is not an exemption to the,
This
It's
is
a
the one
requirement.
that we had, that was Morgan worked on.
But it coming in 20 minutes or 2 hours or same day is not an acceptable.
because the packet actually says that all of the material must be received prior to the bid opening.
Okay. So the recommendation is that we award the bid to
Willow Products,
Willow Products as the lowest,
responsible bidder.
responsible bidder, $95,207. And what were we expecting in cost?
We were,
I wanna say when we first discussed it,
It
it
was
was
around
about
65,
65 to somewhere in that neighborhood. If best I can remember when we talked about it, I think when Thomas had actually mentioned or something up here to me, best I can remember. But I think it was somewhere around $65,000.
Let's, why don't we recess for 5 minutes? And then let me just ask a couple of questions off record related to that, if you don't mind. We'll be back in at 25 till 10.